UFC 312 is this weekend. We are going to cover every single fight on this card, break them down, and make a prediction. All of the links you could ever need are in the description, and I will see you guys later to kick off the card. We are in the flyweight division, where Hyun Park puts his undefeated record on the line. He is taking on Nyamjargal Tumendemberel, who lost his undefeated record in his debut against Carlos Hernandez. Now, interesting to note, this year we've had a lot of undefeated fighters lose that O. That is something that I think of the 6 fighters that have had undefeated records this year so far that have fought, 5 of them have lost that O. The only one that has not was Hamdi Abdelwahab, and that was a close fight that a lot of people think went the other way. So that's going to be something that's interesting because of 5 undefeated fighters on this card, one of which is right here in Hyun Park. So keep that in mind as we talk about these fights. Now, when we look at this one here, also, to say, I'm not a superstitious guy, so I don't think that's really like a thing. But if this trend just keeps happening, I mean, there's got to be something to it, right? But then again, I'm not superstitious. I think each fight is its own fight. I don't think because other people are losing their undefeated streak means that another fighter is. But I wanted to mention that. It's an interesting little tidbit. So for Tumendemberel, we're going to start with him. Like I said, he's 4-1 in his last 5 fights. He's decent everywhere, right? Because he's good, but he'll do something that kind of knocks that skill down a little because he's a decent striker with good forward pressure, good power, and good volume. He's just going to buzzsaw forward, throw in volume and power. But the problem is the dude overswings a lot and leaves himself wide open to counters when he does it. Thankfully for him, he's durable, but that is kind of what will cost him sometimes. He'll get taken down or he'll end up getting cracked, by a shot when he swings over like so and then just gets hit. So he has some drawbacks to his style, but he's good when it works right. But the negatives kind of drop that down a little bit, if you get what I'm saying. In the grappling, it's a similar thing, right? Decent grappler with decent takedowns. He's very good at attacking submissions, but he's so much submission over position that his top control, he just loses position often. And that's something that, although isn't the worst, because he is fairly good at getting that back, it makes it hard going up against somebody that is a skilled grappler, kind of like we saw against Hernandez, where he was not able to outwork him on the mat, and Hernandez was able to grapple with him and do what he needed to do there. And on the feet, he would lose a lot of the minutes, but catch up on the moments. In this one, he's taking on Hyun Park, though. Hyun Park should be cleaner everywhere, but there's some intangibles, right? He's a good striker. He's got good combinations, works the body well, but his striking defense is pretty miserable, and he will get hit quite a bit. He does recover very fast, and that's a thing. People always talk about like the Mexican chin, right? Like Mexican fighters have just like really good durability. That's true, but often overlooked is the South Korean chin. Maybe North Korean too, I don't know, but we just don't really see any fighters from North Korea. But the South Korean chin, there's not very many Korean fighters that are chinny. I can't think of a single one. I mean, you might say the Korean Zombie at the end of his career, but like only in his last like 2 fights. And even then, I wouldn't even say that he was really chinny. He just, it is what it is. But so just like I'm saying, tough, durable thing. Something in the genetics there. Hyun Park has it. Dude recovers really quick. We've seen him dropped many times, but dude's just right back to it. He's good to go. With that, he recovers quick, like I said, and he can win those minutes back with his offensive striking. It's just defensively, he lets a little bit go. Similar to Tumendemberel. On the grappling side, he's a slick grappler, but his takedowns, he often relies on trips, and that is both good and bad, because trips are good. He can use his trips well, but the bad thing is he doesn't really have a way to get inside to the takedowns outside of striking his way into a clinch and then working for a trip, or catching his opponent over swinging. That's possible as well. But if the fight gets to the mat, he's very good at taking the back, and he has a slick rear naked choke as well. This is a tricky one for me, honestly. I think the line is extremely wide, and if you're betting, I think that Tumendemberel is the side. Honestly, though, I'm not going to bet this fight because I do think Park's going to win. I think he's probably going to win this one, and probably by decision, even though this is favored to go under because both guys are finishers. But I'm going to take Hyun Park to get a decision, and I think it's going to be one of those things where Tumendemberel has some moments, like some really good moments, but most of the fight is on the side of Park, and I think he will keep that O. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I was a bit long-winded on this one. Good booking on paper here for the 155-pound division. Anshul Jubli takes on Quillan Salkilld. Both guys are 7-1. We got 4-1 in the last 5 for Jubli, 5-0 for Salkilld. But before we jump into all the nuts and bolts, guys, if you're learning a little something here, if you're enjoying yourself, if this has been helpful or at least entertaining for you in any way, hit that like button for me. I really appreciate it. If you hate me and you're still just hate watching this and you'd like it if I would just go jump off a bridge right now, hit that dislike button because engagement is engagement and I will take either. Let's break down this fight. Anshul Jubli, good striker. I know, okay, everybody's going to say that Jubli is terrible because he lost to Breeden. But remember the first 2 rounds. The dude looked pretty good in that fight in the first 2 rounds. It wasn't until he broke, which is a problem, big problem, but he did look good. So the skills are there. It's up here. But let's break it down. So good striking. He's got good boxing combinations. He works the jab well, good volume. His head movement's on point. The dude's got good ability to work the body. I like all these things about him. In the grappling, he's good there as well. If he can get on top, he's got pretty good top pressure. His takedown defense, you often see him reverse position on the takedown. Somebody shoots in a takedown, he'll not only defend the takedown, put them on their back and stay on top. He does a good job. But breaking in his last fight is not something you like to see. That's a problem for him, but Jubli does have skills. On the other side, Quillan Salkilld, dudes look great thus far, but this is going to be a step up. He's now fighting in the UFC. Before, he was fighting regional scene, contender series. Here he is. Dude's a good striker with kicks to all levels. He's got good combinations where he puts his hands and feet together in those combinations. Punches with kicks right behind him. Kicks with punches right behind him. That's what you like to see. Got good counter striking as well. And the elbows, yeah. Elbows will tear you up. That guy does a good job at mixing those in. Now, grappling. He's even better grappler than he is striker, in my opinion. He's a solid grappler. His takedowns will come at the end of his strikes, which is something that you like to see. He's got a really good ability to transition from position to position and work his ground and pound, and then also attack the chokes. He'll work the ground and pound, go for the choke, transition back to ground and pound if he doesn't get it. He's very good at that. He's active from his back as well if he does get taken down, which is possible because his takedown defense isn't the best. But usually he's a good enough grappler to transition to a better position or throw some stuff off his back, create some space, and then get back to his feet. Ultimately, this is a good fight because it's a tough debut for a guy that is debuting in the UFC. Debuts are hard. But he is in his home area of the world. He's going to be able to fight in front of a crowd that's going to be on his side against a guy that the crowd seems to hate. So, although Jubli's not traveling that far, I mean, India to Australia, not too far, but I'm going to take Salkilld here. I think he's the better fighter, and I think that there is a possibility he loses the first round and then starts to pick it up after that. The jitters are real, right? The jitters are real. Jubli's been there. But there's also a possibility that Jubli hasn't quite recovered from that last loss because the dude broke. So that is also a possibility. But let me know what you think on this one, and I will see you 170, where both guys coming in are 4-1 in their last 5. We have Kevin Jousset taking on Jonathan Micallef. Both guys, like, not both hometowners because Jousset is French, but he trains in New Zealand, so close by. Only a slight difference in the time zone there. Micallef from Australia. We do have a lot of Anzac fighters on this card. I think it's like 9 of them, possibly 8 or 9, something like that. Could be wrong. Makes sense. Fights in Australia, cards in Australia, all that good stuff. So anyway, for Micallef, we're going to start with him. He's making his UFC debut, which is, you know, that's a tough thing to do, but thankfully he gets to do that relatively close to home. He's a decent striker with a pretty good 1-2 that leads right into that takedown. So his striking is to set up the wrestling because his wrestling is his best weapon, but he'll use that 1-2 right into the takedown, and oftentimes he can catch somebody with a head kick because they're expecting a takedown, and he'll throw a head kick out of nowhere, and, you know, I mean, it's a vastly different thing. So if you're thinking try to defend takedowns and your hands get low, you can get kicked in the head pretty easy, and that's why it lands so successfully. His striking defense is not good, so he will get hit quite a bit, most likely, if he's not just diving at takedowns immediately, which I think he will entertain the striking a bit in this, as he has in the past. Good wrestling. His takedown defense is good. His takedowns are good, and his top control is good. If he gets a hold of you, he's pretty good at getting that wrestling game working, especially from what we've seen on the regional scene. Now, like I said, he's decent in the striking, but his best path to victory here is going to be the wrestling. But he's fighting Kevin Jousset. Now, Jousset is a pretty good striker as well. The guy has pretty good straight punches, and because of his extended stance, boom, boom, those punches land really quick because they're not traveling super far. But also because of his extended stance, he is wide open to getting hit with things like, you know, coming around the outside, a head kick could get him. But he does do a pretty good job at blocking stuff down the middle typically, unless you get past that extended stance, if that makes sense. Now, with the extended stance that he uses, he'll often throw knees up the middle to kind of change a person's desire to come through that middle with like a takedown or anything like that. So he does that very well, and he has really solid leg kicks, but he will often throw them naked, which results in his striking defense not being the best, because when you throw a naked leg kick, you're often open for the counter. His grappling, pretty good there. I believe it's a judo background that he comes from, but he has pretty good takedown defense. He's got a good cage push offensively. He can control guys there, and he can work in some throws from that spot. Ultimately, for me, this is a close fight. If you look at the just like skill for skill, but the thing that I think is going to give the edge to Jousset for me, UFC experience, fought the higher level of competition. I think that's a big deal. And also for me, I think the fact that Micallef is going to need to get the grappling going, I think Jousset is going to have an advantage on the feet, and I think that his takedown defense is going to be the difference maker here. So we're going to go Jousset. He's a big favorite, though. It's another one I'm probably going to pass. There's not a lot that I'm going to be betting on this card, but there are a few spots. But either way, I'm passed on this one most likely, but Jousset is the pick. Let me know what you have in the comments. 55-pounder here. We've got another debutant and undefeated fighter in Kody Steele at 7-0. He's taking on Rongzhu, who is 4-1 in his last 5 fights with a wealth of experience in comparison, 25-6 as opposed to 7-0. So the experience is definitely on the Rongzhu side. Now, when we look at this matchup here, Rongzhu, good striker, nasty leg kicks, good combinations. He's got power in the hands, and he's quick with it. So on paper in the striking, the dude's probably going to have a little bit of an advantage there. But his grappling, big drawback. Dude's takedown defense isn't very good, and he can be controlled on the mat. That he has improved the takedown defense some. It's still not where it needs to be at the UFC level. Let's put it that way. On the other side, Kody Steele. He's a good striker, right? He's pretty good. He's got dirty boxing. That's his best part of his striking. He's got basic combinations when he's at range, and he does pretty good with those. Like by basic, I don't mean bad. By basic, I mean he sticks to the fundamental things. You're not going to see anything super wild, very textbook. He's going to work the body very well, but he does kind of get open for counters when he starts throwing hooks. Like he'll chain together 3 or 4 hooks in a row. That usually isn't good because your arms get to where you're doing this, because you end up in the middle of a fight, instead of bringing your hands back here each time, and like you do that on a heavy bag, but in the middle of a fight, let's be honest, not many people are doing that. So you start becoming open to just getting countered off of a hook, and he will be susceptible to that sometimes, especially when he backs somebody up against a cage and starts going for those shots. But he's durable. We've seen him take a shot, and it doesn't seem to phase him much. Dude's got a neck the size of a tree trunk, so that's cool. Solid grappler as well. Dude's takedowns are very good, and he sets them up with his hands because he's coming in with those basic combos, like I said, and then he'll just change levels, boom, get that takedown and bring you to the mat. He also has mat returns that will kind of just keep you getting drugged down every time you work back to your feet. He will take the back, whether you're on the mat or up against the cage. A lot of times what happens is he mat returns somebody a few times, they get up against the cage and they're trying to peel him off, and he just takes their back there, and he'll either go up on the back or drag them back to the mat into his back control. So I do like that. I do think his grappling is the clear path to victory here. If Kody Steele grapples, he should win this fight at a very high clip. If he strikes, he could win this fight. It's just not the obvious path. I mean, when you look at this, it's the obvious path. I think Kody Steele wins at a high clip. I am worried with the experience and the travel across the world. Yes, Rongzhu is still traveling, not nearly as far, but I think Kody Steele has the skills to get it done, and especially if he comes in with a proper game plan. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. We're in the bantamweight division with yet another undefeated fighter. Colby Thicknesse, 7-0, 5-0 in the last 5. Takes on Aleksandre Topuria, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, 5-1 on the career. That one loss, though, take it with a pinch of salt. It was up like 2 weight classes and like a decade ago. So do what you will with that information, right? I've got to say one other thing, too, before we get into the breakdown of these skills. Topuria doesn't fight very often at all. He hasn't fought much. In fact, at least 3 of his fights were like a decade or more ago. Yeah, just doesn't fight often. So take that for what you will. We're going off of some stuff that we're just kind of trying our best to get some good information here. And I think a lot of people, because of the Topuria name, are just thinking he's going to be a world beater. And maybe he is. I've got some stuff to say on him that's very positive, but most of those fights are forever ago, and the ones more recently are against absolute tomato cans. Drop a tomato can emoji down in the comment section if you agree with that. Now, anyway, Topuria, he is a good striker. He strikes very much like his brother Ilya, just not quite as good. He's good, not quite as good. He has good forward pressure, good power. He works his jab high and low. He doesn't quite have the head movement that Ilya has, and I think that's what sets them apart there. I think Ilya is the much better boxer, weaving his way in, things like that, whereas Aleksandre just kind of comes forward, sticks his jab high and low, and he'll throw those big power shots as well, but he doesn't have the head movement that Ilya has. I'm not expecting him to be as good as Ilya. Ilya's a world champion, but the last name makes you compare him. You know what I mean? He's a good grappler. He seems more willing to use his grappling than his brother. He goes to the grappling earlier, more often. He's got good takedowns. He works to advance his position right away. He's got good top pressure, and his ground and pound's pretty solid. He does seem to favor grappling over striking. So that is something that's interesting, because Ilya seems the opposite, where he wants to strike, but he's also a really good grappler, so he can grapple. It seems that Aleksandre likes to go with the grappling more than the striking, but he's good at both, okay? On the other side, Colby Thicknesse. This dude is a massive underdog right now, but dude's 7-0, and he's fought the far better competition. It's not close. If you compared the competition all day, but we're not going just off of competition. We're going off of skill sets. Now, in the striking, Thicknesse does have some problems here. He's decent. Don't get me wrong. The kicks are good. He kicks to all levels extremely well, and he can kick off of either leg. He'll even use these kicks to set up his takedowns, which is wild, because getting a takedown off of a kick that takes some dexterity, right? So for a guy like Thicknesse, I do like that. But the problem is his punches, although they're not bad, he's just not a super quality boxer. He has been dropped quite a bit. He does recover very quickly. Like, the dude can take a punch and just bounce back. That's not going to last forever, but he's only had 7 pro fights. It'll probably still be there for this one. But he gets backed up, and that's a problem against a guy like Topuria. So I don't like that, but what I do like is his grappling. The one thing I don't like is his takedown defense. That's what stopped him from getting a bump up to the solid grappling level by my estimations. He doesn't really have the best takedown defense, but everything else, it's good. He's got decent takedowns. I wish those were a little more high percentage, but I'm nitpicking here. They're pretty good. He's got very good back takes, and he will attack the rear naked choke a lot. So even if he doesn't successfully get it, he's really making you fight that, and that's going to help him out, because when you're fighting a choke, it's hard to save yourself from everything else, right? He's got very good control. He's got lanky limbs, and I think that helps a lot, and his ground and pound's vicious. The thing that I really like about Thicknesse here, that name, you got to dance around that name and not watch where you say it, you know what I mean? But it's the cardio. Thicknesse has cardio. This dude can go. I've seen him in very high-paced fights, and he does not slow down. He's still going to be there at the end of the 3 rounds, as long as he doesn't get knocked out. This is a hard fight to predict. And I know everybody's saying, oh, Topuria easy, look at his highlight reel, look at his tape. Those guys he's beaten aren't that good. So you have to, I understand he's beating them the way he should, but one of those dudes had 30-something losses and single-digit wins. And that was one of the recent ones. It's hard. I'm going to take the underdog, and if I'm wrong, by golly, you can just tell me how stupid I am for taking, at the time, a plus 400 underdog right now. He's probably going to be a bigger underdog come fight day. I'm going with Colby Thicknesse here. He's home soil against a guy that's traveling to get here. Massive underdog, fought much better competition. I'm going to take him. He probably has a cardio edge too. Give me Colby Thicknesse to get this one done. I'm already trying to defend my pick. You guys haven't even said anything yet. I'll see you guys next. Wang takes on Bruna, Brasil. Interesting fight, because for Chung, she lost her undefeated record in her last fight. So she's now 4-1. She was a massive favorite that time out. We're going to cover a little bit of that as it ties into her skill set when we get to her side. But on the other side, Bruna, Brasil, making improvements at a pretty high clip. She's looked to be leveling up as she goes in her career. She's 10-4-1 on the career, but 3-2 in the last 5, and she's coming off, some pretty good performances as of late. For Brasil, good striker. She doesn't really have a ton of power, but she's technical. She's got good ability to work the body. Her kicks are probably her best weapon, and she can work them to all levels. She can snap them right up the middle, going to the face, the body. She can get leg kicks in there. Her body kicks are probably my favorite part of that, whether they be a teep or just kind of like a roundhouse to the body. She does a really good job at mixing up the levels on those kicks, but also using them to keep her opponents at range, because she's kind of lanky in the leg department, right? She does get backed up a bit, and a lot of times she'll get to where she's throwing the kicks as she's backing up, and then obviously you're going to take a lot of the stink off those kicks, because if you're backing up, your kick isn't going to have as much power. She'll get to where she's doing the lean back defense a little bit, and that's something that you don't really want in this matchup. We'll cover that in a minute, but those are the red flags. She seems to have worked on them some, mostly the backing up part, but they're still there. She does have a good tie clinch, though. She's got pretty good trips from that clinch. She's good at keeping those elbows tight, making it hard for her opponents to pummel in and all that good stuff. And she's got pretty good knees. Now, in the grappling department, I don't think she's got the grappling skill set to be able to take down someone like Wang, but I'm trying to say that name properly. So if you know how to properly say that, let me know. Because I know it's not Cong Wang. That's very, very Western way to say that. But either way, I'm doing my best. But we'll move on to the other side. For Cong, she's a solid striker. There's one big red flag, and we saw that come to be her downfall in her last fight. But she is a solid striker who cuts off the cage really well with a ton of power. She's going to work her combinations. She's going to come forward, and while she's working that range, she'll use a side kick to keep her opponents at range. The drawback for Wang Cong is the hands get low as she gets comfortable in a fight. She starts winning the fight, her hands get lower, and she starts kind of doing this side kick to keep them at range and walking people down like that. The reason that's a problem in her last fight, everybody's like, oh, but she got subbed. Didn't her takedown defense fail? No, her takedown defense is great. It's the fact she got head kicked and dropped, and then she got subbed. That's the problem. It's because her hands got low because she was getting too comfortable. She ate a head kick while she was winning the fight comfortably. So this needs to change for her to be a comfortable favorite. She's a big-time favorite here, and that makes me think probably don't bet her as a big favorite, even if I do think she's going to win, but we'll get to that in a minute. Her decent grappling is there. She's got good ground and pound, good takedown defense, and she will slam or toss you around because she's a very physical person. She just throws people around. I do think she wins. I think Wang Cong wins. I think she's a good fighter. I think there's a good bounce back spot for her, but she get kicked right in the face again, and if she does that again, my goodness, that means she didn't learn a darn thing from her last fight. But we're taking her. She is a big favorite. I understand taking a shot on Bruna Brasil. I definitely understand maybe playing a point spread on Brasil, especially if you can get that at plus money. And, if you are on the underdog here, let me know in the comments. I don't fault you a bit. I could even be swayed if you come at me with a pretty good argument on it, and other than just that she trains at the Fighting Nerds. Don't give me that nonsense. So did MBS. But Wang Cong's a pick. Let me know what you got. Fivers take the stage here where Viacheslav Borshchev takes on Tom Nolan. Tom Nolan 4-1 in his last 5. He only has 1 loss on the career. Got caught, knocked out. Not the best look, but it does happen to younger guys in their UFC careers. He got that one out of the way. Seems to be on the right track now. For Viacheslav Borshchev, he's 2-2 in a draw in his last 5 fights. Hasn't looked the best in his recent performances, though it could be the level of competition. The guy started fighting a lot higher level of competition than he was earlier in the career, so we're going to kind of see where these two are meeting. With this matchup here, Borshchev, he's going to be the cleaner striker. The dude's a very solid striker, right? He's got absolutely devastating kicks, pretty good power, works the body really well, combinations, he can put his punches and kicks together. The dude is a solid, just all-around striker. Very, very good there. Okay, we have that out of the way. He's going to be the better striker. This is a big hole for him, is the takedown defense. He's not very good in the takedown defense. He does work to get back up pretty quickly. He scoots to the cage, uses the cage to get back up, and then starts fighting the hands, things like that. He does a good job there when if you can give him just any space to start scooting, that's what he does. But he's going to have to worry about getting taken down here, and he also is going to have to worry on the feet. We saw Chase Hooper drop Borshchev on the feet because of his build. He's a long, lanky, kind of gangly-looking dude, right? I bet Chase in that one, so I'm not trying to dog on the guy, but you didn't expect him to go out there and start throwing hands and knocking Borshchev down. He did. But the similarities with Nolan and Hooper is they're both long, lanky dudes. And Nolan's a pretty good striker. I would say Chase is still a work in progress in the striking. I think everybody knows that, but I'd say Nolan is a little bit cleaner there, right? He uses his size really well in addition to that. So that's going to be something that's important. He's got good volume, good combinations, and his knees up the middle are solid. I don't think that in a pure striking matchup that Tom Nolan is outclassed here, even though I think Borshchev is much more skilled. Does that make sense? Does it make sense to you guys? I don't know. That might make sense. It might sound stupid, but in an MMA fight, sometimes the better striker doesn't look like the better striker if they are worried about grappling being involved. And although Tom Nolan is not the grappler that Chase Hooper is, That's not saying much. Chase Hooper is an absolute phenom on the ground. Not many people are going to keep up with him. But Tom Nolan is decent there. He has really good ground and pound, and he uses his length extremely well. This guy is a guy that can wrap you up. He can control you once he gets there, and once he does, he's throwing some pretty heavy ground and pound. He's also got them choking arms, right? Those long, skinny arms. It's really easy to get under a chin when you got that long, skinny arm. You slip that radius right under there, and it's night, good night. So honestly, I'm going to go with the guy who doesn't have to travel across the world, seems to be in better form as of late, and probably has a little advantage in the grappling. So I'm going to go with Tom Nolan. Maybe I'm crazy. I know everybody loves Borshchev, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Featherweights next. Jack Jenkins takes on Gabriel Santos. Santos is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, 4-1 on the Jenkins side. When we look at this one here, this is a competitive fight. This is a really competitive fight, if you ask me. Santos, a solid striker, good forward pressure, fights out of either stance, super quick with the strikes, really good knees up the middle. That's one thing that I think is going to be, even if he's not throwing them consistently in this fight, he's going to want to make Jenkins think those knees are coming up the middle, because we'll cover the skill set of Jenkins in a bit, but we do know that he shoots a lot of takedowns, even though he is kind of known for being more of a striker. So the knees up the middle, if he can feint those a lot, I like that. His front kick up the middle is absolutely nasty as well. Snaps that thing to the body or the head, and it is just brutal. Puts together good combinations. He's a very good striker. In the grappling, he's good there too. He mixes in his takedowns really well. He's very active from his back if he does get taken down. He'll attack submissions, and he has pretty decent takedown defense. He's not like one of those guys that is active from their back because they just, oh, you're shooting a takedown, I'll just let you, and then they start throwing up submissions. He doesn't do that. He does try to defend the takedown most of the time. On the other side, Jack Jenkins. This dude's a good striker as well, who will pump out the jab, and he does a really good job working the jab, but his leg kicks are what often get it done. The dude's got a really heavy leg kick, and he's broken some people's legs recently. Like, this isn't like, oh, he did it once on the regional scene, now he's known for it. Like, he's still doing that thing, right? He's breaking legs with those leg kicks. They're solid. Works the body well. He can fight out of either stance, and he can also put together combinations. He's more of a boxer with a leg kick, which is a very common style in the UFC, versus more of the Muay Thai style, I would say, of Santos, which is also a very common style for striking in the UFC. So it's going to be like boxer with leg kicks, which most boxers in the UFC do have pretty good leg kicks. It's just kind of you have to develop that. Versus that Muay Thai style, who's going to win out on the striking. In the grappling, Jenkins has pretty good wrestling, and he does mix in a lot of takedowns, and he has decent top pressure. His takedown defense is pretty good as well, but the problem Jenkins has is that he often starts fights slow. And that's actually what lets me decide that I'm going to side with Santos here. If it wasn't for that, I would have a little bit harder time picking, because I think both guys have real paths to victory. Both guys are going to have a lot of success in this matchup if I'm reading this right. But I think Santos is just going to be a little bit more dangerous early. I think he's going to be able to keep up with everything throughout the fight. And I think that even if the fight is close, I think Santos is probably going to win the first round. So that makes me more confident. Even if it goes to decision, he'll get it. So we're taking Santos, but this is a tough fight to call. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Matchup in the welterweight division here. Jake Matthews takes on Francisco Prado. Both guys are 3-2 in their last 5 fights. Prado is an interesting case because this fight being at 170, he has traditionally fought at 155 pounds. So here we are. For Francisco Prado, the dude is a good striker. He's got good power. He's got good forward pressure. And he's got a pretty good head kick, a sneaky one at that. The problem that he has is he doesn't really move his head, and his striking defense suffers because of it. But this dude is tougher than an old leather boot. The guy can take a shot, he can keep coming forward, and he's just going to keep throwing. He's going to make you have to do everything you can to keep him at range, because if he gets inside, starts landing power shots of his own, you're going to feel it. He's got a good tie clinch as well, and he's got good control from that tie clinch. And I think that's something that if he can just keep wading through shots, he could eventually get inside and do that. Got some good slams in the grappling department. Doesn't really try to grapple much, but if you let him get a hold of you, dude might toss you. So for Prado, the dude's going to come in just basically forward, zombie style, land power shots. That is his goal in this fight, most likely. On the other side, we got Jake Matthews. He's going to be the more technical striker for sure. He's a good striker with good combos, good counter punching, good movement, good durability. And I think these things here, the movement, being able to maybe eat one, counter strike, those are all things that are going to really help him in this fight. He's a good grappler. He's got an excellent back take, really good at looking for that rear naked choke, good ground and pound. But his problem is he's a bit inconsistent. Now, he's been in the UFC since he was like 19 years old. The dude's been in the UFC forever, basically. Most of his career, it's from my understanding, like, gosh, I can't remember what year it was when he got to the UFC, but I remember it was the season of the Ultimate Fighter where they did like Canada versus Australia, and he was on Team Australia, and that was a long time ago. And I don't know of anybody else that was on that season that is still in the UFC. If you can think of somebody else that was on that season that's still in the UFC, drop them down below, because I sure can't. Anyway, if you even remember that season, that was a long time ago. But he is a bit inconsistent. Sometimes he looks like a world beater, and then other times you're like, man, where's the Jake Matthews that just like ran through that guy in his last fight? Or, you know, like other times you're like, oh my gosh, where did this Jake Matthews come from? This guy is fantastic. So it's hard to say, but I do think that the movement mixed with the counter striking is going to be enough to be able to stay at range, use his shots, pick his shots well, and get the win over Prado. But it's a close fight. It's a risky fight. But I'm going to take Jake Matthews here. I have a hard time putting a bet on him as a big favorite. Jake Matthews is the type of guy I like to bet on as an underdog. We're going to mull this one over for a bit, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What's this fight doing on the main card, you ask? Well, I don't know. It's kind of strange, isn't it? 205 pounds is the division. We've got Rodolfo Belato. He's taking on Jimmy Crute. Crute's coming back from retirement. In his neck of the woods, though, so here we are. He's 1-3-1 draw in his last 5 fights. Not the best 5 on in. Belato looks much better on the 5 on in, right? 4-1, but those 2 losses in his career, both to Vitor Petrino, who hasn't really looked that good as of late. So, you know, and, you know, for Belato, even though he won against Topuria, yeah, I mean, he almost died at first. Like, he got beat up bad, and then he somehow survived. Somehow. Many refs would have stopped that, but then he came back. So, I don't know why this is the main card. There's so many fights on the prelims that I think would make a better main card spot than this one, but we're here. We'll start on Belato's side. Decent striker, good front kicks and knees up the middle, does a good job there. He's got good power. He throws a lot of single shots. Good grappling. This is his best skill set, I'd say, but his takedowns aren't very good. He's good once he gets on top. He's good active off of his back. You don't really want to be from your back, but he's active from there. He does attack submissions. He can wear on opponents up against the cage pretty good, and I think that's going to be what he wants to do here probably, because getting the takedown on Crute might be tough, but if he does, I could see him having some success. Now for Crute, decent striker with good power, but he's a bit wild and his striking defense isn't the best. Decent wrestling. He's got decent takedowns. His ground and pound's pretty good, and he's got good ground and pound volume, but he struggles with control. Guys, I don't know on this one. Why don't you just go take a trip to the fridge, crack open a root beer while they're introducing the fighters. When you get back, the fight will probably start. You can just watch this madness take place. I have no idea who's going to win this one. I'll take Belato because I know you guys want me to make a pick. And the whole, like, coming off a retirement for Crute, yeah, I don't know. It's a narrative. I get it. But, like, I don't know what we're grasping at straws here. This is really hard to really predict this. This is the hardest one to predict on the card. But let me know what you guys think. I do appreciate you tuning in, even to this kind of breakdown. We are at heavyweight for this one. We've got another undefeated fighter and another debut. That's Tallison Teixeira. 7-0 on the career, 5-0 in the last 5, and he's making his debut to take on Justin Tafa, the better Tafa brother, who is 7-4, 3-1 in a no contest in the last 5. The no contest from a brutal eye poke, which it makes sense. The dude, I mean, it was nasty. So, interesting fight here because Justin Tafa, dude, looked pretty good as of late. He's a good striker, plenty of power. Dude's got so much power, and he's durable as they get. Like, this dude's head is like a block of cement. Like, dude, just solid, right? Works the body really well, works the leg kicks really well. He can counter strike really well. Takedown defense sucks. But Justin Tafa, the problem for him here, he's like 6 foot. He's going against a guy that's 6'7" in Tallison Teixeira. Can he even reach his head? Are his arms long enough to even knock this guy out? He's going to have to do a lot of body work here, hit those legs, because dude's a giant. Giant. The reach advantage is something like 10 inches or something like that. It's something ridiculous. 9 inches? It's something ridiculous. Teixeira has those physical advantages here. But that's it. I don't think I've ever had somebody lose stock as much as he did in a win on his Contender Series. The dude didn't look good at all. And he won by knockout. It was just, he just looked bad. But he got by because he's super athletic and he's a giant that hits hard. He's a decent striker, and by that I mean he'll come forward and he throws power. That's it. Justin Tafa should be way better. I don't know that Teixeira can really get the takedowns here, but if he does, he might have a path that way. But other than that, I think Justin Tafa should be the favorite, and I don't know why he's not. So I'm thinking Justin Tafa because this dude's had UFC experience. He doesn't have to fly halfway across the dang world to fight this fight. He didn't just come off a fight where he looked like absolute didn't belong type of level in a win even. So I'm taking Justin Tafa. I don't get it. I'm more confident in him than I am in some of the big favorites. I don't know. Guys, am I nuts? Let me know. Main event of the evening, and we've got another one. Another undefeated fighter, 10-0 for Tatiana Suarez. She's 5-0 in the last 5. She's taking on Zhang Weili, 25-3 on the career 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Guys, real quick reminder, if you haven't done it already and you are enjoying yourself, please hit that like button for me, or also dislike, whatever. Hit one of them. It does help the video, and that is great. So let's break this one down here. For Tatiana Suarez, the challenger, she's undefeated at 10-0. Why? You're like, why has it taken her so gosh darn long to get a title shot? Well, because she's always hurt. She's always hurt. So hopefully this fight happens, and if it does, that's awesome. She doesn't go into the fights hurt, but she pulls out of a lot of fights or can't fight because she has long layoffs because she's hurt a lot. It makes sense. She's had a lifelong wrestling career, basically. So because of that, you get a lot of injuries. And guess what? She's a strong wrestler because of it. This woman's wrestling is very, very good. She's got strong takedowns. She's got very good throws as well. She's got good body lock takedowns, whether she gets to the lock and starts working for trips or just ripping you to the mat. She does a good job with many different styles of them. She's got a good cage push as well. From there, she works her knees in extremely well. She's good at passing the guard with her takedowns. This is key, because we'll cover it in a moment, but Zhang is very active off her back, so passing that guard is going to make that much trickier, because when she gets the takedown, she doesn't end up in guard often. She often is able to get the legs to the outside and get into that side control with the takedown, which is impressive. That is a more difficult thing than people realize, so that's good, especially in MMA. She also works for her chokes really well, and she has heavy ground and pound. The problem is, this is her skill set. She's exclusively a wrestler, right? Or an MMA wrestler. Like, she obviously, you don't ground and pound in wrestling. That would be, you would get disqualified. But in MMA, you can. And she has developed a wrestling skill set for MMA, and she's very effective with it. But her striking leaves a lot to be desired, and there are some in-betweens that maybe she could use some work. But her striking, her wrestling threat will set up the 1-2, and she does have a pretty decent 1-2. She is lanky. Her arms are long, so that 1-2 does snap out pretty good right there. The problem is, she's going against a very good striker, because she's going to need to get the wrestling going, which I think she will. I think she's going to have success with the wrestling, at least at some point in this fight. But if she's on the feet, Zhang Weili is the better striker. And I don't think that's silly to say. I think Zhang Weili is the clear better striker, and I don't think anybody's going to disagree with me here, except for maybe Tatiana herself. I don't know. But either way, Zhang is a very solid striker. She's got good forward pressure, really good combos. The problem is she will drop her hands mid-combo. I don't like that, but I don't think it's going to cost her in this fight, so that's okay. She's got really good power. She's got good volume and output, and she's accurate with her strikes. Better striker by a lot. She's also got a good tie clinch. Her knees are brutal, and she can trip you down pretty gosh darn well in that tie clinch. Now, she could go to the wrestling as well. She's a good grappler. She's got a decent sprawl. She's going to need it here because she's going to need to defend some takedowns, but she could also go to her own takedowns. That's fine too. She's active from her back, like I said, and she works to get to her feet. However, if her guard is passed on the takedown, it's going to be trickier. She's going to probably need to either regain her guard first before working back up, or create a scramble, which is fine. She's a good scrambler. She's got nasty ground and pound if she gets on top, but the problem is that will often result in her losing position, because she will posture up too much and just start really going for the kill. That can result in losing your position. You're not using your hands anymore, right? Because you're hitting the person with your hands, so you can't control them with your hands. So all of the control then falls to the legs. Not many fighters are good at holding someone down with just their legs, when the other fighter is going to say, okay, I'm going to eat a couple shots, but I'm going to use my hands to push off. I'm going to bridge. I'm going to roll. I'm going to do all this, that, and the other to get out. But either way, Zhang Weili's better in most areas of this fight, except for the wrestling. The wrestling is Suarez. I think Zhang Weili wins this fight. I feel pretty good about that, and I don't know why so much money is coming in on Suarez. I think she's really good. I think she is. I just think that this fight is going to show that over 5 rounds, she's not going to be able to wrestle all 5 rounds against Zhang Weili, and I think Zhang Weili gets it done and still But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Time for the main event, the rematch. Dricus du Plessis looks to defend his championship against the former champion, Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland is 4-1 in his last 5. The only loss coming to du Plessis. Du Plessis is 5-0 in his last 5. This is a good fight. This was a good fight the first time. This was an exciting fight. Controversial decision in that one. Many people thought it went the other way. It's kind of what it is. So, a lot of people on either side of the fence. In this one here, we've got Sean Strickland, who is a solid striker, right? People make fun of his striking. They do. They say, oh, looks like the iCarly meme or this, that, and the other. Oh, he says he's going to go to war. This. But it's effective. It's really stinking effective. The dude's got constant forward pressure with outrageous volume. For the middleweight division, you're not going to find somebody with more volume than Sean Strickland. He's got very good striking defense. He's good at parrying the hands. He can get caught with a lead hook, like we saw with Pereira, and that's because he'll often go to bat a hand away here with the right hand. And when he goes to bat that hand away, if you're throwing a cross at him or something, then he's open for that hook to come around the outside. That's what I'm getting at there. Either way, I've explained that before. That was my worst attempt at it ever, but the point is he goes to bat a hand away using that parry style and then is open. But he'll establish his jab. He has a really good teep kick. He cuts off the cage well, and he doesn't commit heavy to his strikes. Now, this is good and bad. The reason it's good, he's not really ever off balance. He's never in a bad position. He doesn't put himself somewhere to be countered very well. But the reason it's bad is because he's not really putting a lot of power on his shots. He's just walking you down, sticking the jab, occasionally throwing a 1-2, and he's working the teep kick. He's just working it over and over and over, come off either leg, front leg or the back leg, doesn't matter. Dude's just going to walk you down with shots straight down the middle. And he does gosh darn good with it, and he beats most people with it. He's 29-6 on the career, 4-1 in the last 5. What else do we need to say? The guy's had a good resume. And a couple of those losses, he won. He won the Jared Cannonier fight. I don't care what anybody says. He clearly beat Jared Cannonier in that fight. But either way, his striking, people make fun of it. They say, oh, it sucks, but it's good. His grappling, we don't see it offensively. He doesn't use it offensively whatsoever, but he has good takedown defense. Sure, he was taken down 6 times by DDP in the last fight, but DDP wasn't able to do much with those takedowns. We didn't see a lot of ground and pound. We didn't see a lot of submission attempts. We didn't see a lot of that. Strickland is very good at, even when he does get taken down, he fights the grips and he works his way back to his feet, and he does a really good job with it. His pace and his cardio are excellent tools that he uses to win fights. On the other side, we have Dricus du Plessis. He's a good striker. He's got good forward pressure, tons of power, good volume as well. Not quite as good a volume. We saw that in the first fight, but good volume. He's got good flurries, and he kind of comes in with like wild flurries where he's like out of position and throwing weird stuff, but it works for him. Puts together combinations. Occasionally they look clean. Most of the time they don't, but occasionally they do, and when they do, it surprises the heck out of you. He's durable as they get, and he's very unorthodox in his style, and that causes a lot of problems for a lot of people. The dude is legit, and he has very good grit, and that makes up for some of his ability to get hit. He does get hit quite a bit, but being as tough as he is, comes right through it and starts landing big shots of his own. Solid grappling. He's got very powerful takedowns. We saw him get Sean Strickland down. That is not an easy task. The dude has great takedown defense. He got him down 6 times. He's got heavy ground and pound. He's got good sweeps if he somehow ends up on the bottom. And he's got an excellent front choke series. DDP is a very good grappler. I think this is a good fight. Both guys have really good pace. The killer instinct of DDP is top tier. It's not on the other side. Strickland's killer instinct is, he's just kind of going out there to win the fight. He's just throwing shots, whatever, nothing. The killer instinct from DDP, if he hurts you, this guy swarms. We saw him swarm out of Sonya and get that choke. That's what he does. So it's different. They're different styles, and that is what makes this fight so exciting. Now for the pick. This is going to be a polarizing one because there are so many people that were on either sides of the aisle in that first fight. I thought Strickland won. I thought the only round that DDP won clearly was round number 2. Yes, you could score other rounds for him. I'm not saying you couldn't. I'm just saying round 2 is the round he won clearly. I thought Sean easily won rounds 1 and 5. I would see a more compelling argument for both 3 and 4 going to Strickland than I would see for both 3 and 4 going for DDP. That said, I thought Strickland won the fight. Hate that if you must. It was a competitive fight. It was a good fight. It wasn't the worst robbery we've ever seen. Volkov got robbed blind by Cyril Gahn, and that was a much worse robbery. But I thought Strickland won the first fight. I think he has all the tools to win the second fight. I think he's going to win the second fight. We're taking Sean Strickland as an underdog and new 2-time champion here. Maybe I'm wrong, and DDP is just going to prove me wrong once again. I picked against him in the past, and I felt stupid for it. But we're taking Strickland. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, last chance to like it. Maybe send it to a friend. Post it on your social media so everybody can see that you're watching this really nice content we got here with the marker board, sitting in class, taking the notes, doing what you got to do. But guys, thank you so much for coming out. I appreciate the heck out of you, and I'll see you down the road.